Hi, this is your 2019 yearly horoscopes with me, Lada, from astrolada.com. Thank you for choosing me to be your guide for the year 2019. I feel very flattered. And I just want, before we start, and this is the intro for all 12 signs, but it's important for you to watch it. And before I start for each sign, I want to invite you to join me in a little prayer, no matter who you believe in and what you believe in, just to focus our energy and to benefit the most through this reading. Dear Mother, Father, Universe, God, exalted angels, guardians of every human, those that are helping the evolution of humanity and of every individual person. Please bless everyone who watches those videos and the whole world in 2019. Let those videos and the information that is given here be useful to everyone, so everyone can use it to the most constructive possible ways, to the highest vibration of the planets. And even if there are challenging periods and moments in our life in 2019, let this video and this information give us not only clarity but a meaning and understanding of those more painful experiences that are in front of us, so we realize that life is not an adversary to battle with and conquer, that life is our benevolent good partner that is trying to lead us to discover our true authenticity. It is trying to lead us to a place of happiness, to a place of truthfulness. So let this year 2019 and the information we receive here, let us use it to the highest good for everyone involved, and let us be able to utilize the planetary energies to help ourselves, to uplift ourselves and those around us. Amen. So I want for you to benefit the most. Thank you so much for joining me, by the way, in the prayer. So for you to benefit the most from this, I want you to take a pen and paper and write down 3 things. And some of you would be just listening your sun sign. Others would be just listening to your moon sign. Others bought all the 12 videos, so you'll be able to be watching your ascendant, sun, and moon. But I always advise you, watch your ascendant sign, because if you go to a professional astrologer, they'll look at your ascendant and how the planets are in correspondence, where they're moving from that ascendant. And nowadays, more and more astrologers are using the ancient time of astrology, which is whole sign house system. So these videos are perfect. The whole sign house system is what when first astrologers created it, the system they were using it. So without the house cusps and anything. So the ascendant is the point of incarnation of the physical body. So it is of the soul into the physical body. It is the physical bodies. That's why it shows the most tangible things that are happening to us. That's why I always advise, check the prognosis for your ascendant sign. The moon sign is our inner world, how we feel, our self-consciousness. So the moon usually manifests the second most powerful after the ascendant sign, because we especially strongly identify with how we feel about something and something that impacts us emotionally. And even though, for example, from the ascendant, some big event might be happening, like changing of place of living, but from the moon, it's shown that, for example, you will be having a quarrel with a friend. For you, this will be a way bigger deal, because emotionally this feels much stronger for you, this quarrel with a friend, for example, than the relocation that's happening. But from the ascendant, it shows the specific things that are happening in your life in a tangible way, because the ascendant is the material body and what is happening to us on our path in that material body. And the sun sign is what most of the people only check, and but that's pop astrology. But still, the sun sign is very important. The sun sign is our willpower, our goals. It's our ability to channel divine intelligence. And the sun sign will show us, looking at the prognosis from the sun sign, will show us especially the things that we are striving towards to achieve consciously. And the prognosis for the sun sign would tend to have more free will over that prediction, what you're going to read, because the sun is connected to free will, while the moon symbolizes the past. These are things that often happen. The prediction from the moon are encoded from the past, while from the ascendant sign, it's sealed in stone, so to speak, So yes, checking the sun sign is very important, especially because you can direct the events there more with your free will. The moon sign, you feel like it's more fated and it affects your feelings the most and your personal life. And the ascendant sign is the most tangible event. So I would advise start with the ascendant sign and progress. And for you to know, though, a lot of people don't know, the sun sign is the one that everyone speaks about. You know, like, oh, what are you? I'm an Aries. It means I'm born from March the 20th to April 20th, something like that. But and I can give you predictions for, oh, if you're born from March 1st to March 5th, this and this will be happening for you. But every year they change, the sun moves into a different sign a day before or after, and I want to be way more precise for you. So instead of giving you days, we're gonna find the degrees of your sun, the degrees of your moon, and the degrees of your ascendant signs. And for some of you, the moon and the ascendant might be the same, or the sun and the moon. Rarely, but it happens. So for you to find this out, I want you to, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Let me just. Here it is. Share. So I hope you see it. Go to my birth website, astrolada.com. You see it here. And go to the birth chart and transits. Or if you have any other astrology calculator, I don't mind as long as it gives you the information that I'm going to show. So here I'm going to put a fictitious person, let's say whatever name. Write your name. So you're born in August the 6th, 1972, for example, at 8 a.m. or make sure that if you're born later, you check if it's 8 p.m., 20, you know. And it's important for your correct ascendant and for the degree, in particular for the ascendant and the direct degree of the moon, the correct sign and degree of the moon, for you to know your minute of birth. If you don't know it within 15, 20 minutes, the degree of the ascendant might be 3 or 4 degrees off, but the moon degree would usually be correct. But say you're born 8/17, and say you're born in the USA, and you're born in New York, and you have the drop-down menu. Which New York are you born in? Well, there are many New Yorks, say New York Hospital, whatever. And continue, press continue. And then you're gonna get this chart, and I want you to scroll down, you see, not here, but here inside. And you're gonna see this, which shows planetary details. And I want you to, there is abbreviation of ascendant, sun, and moon. This is the only work you have to do. After that, just listen and enjoy and wait to hear your degrees. I mean, I'll be speaking generally about each sign, but especially when I mention the degree of the sign that you have. This is when things are going to, you know, you're going to feel them so intensely. So this person, for example, has ascendant, which means your rising sign is the same. Ascendant, rising means the same. The physical body, it is at 20 degrees Aquarius. I want you to write just the first degree. The second one is not so important. This is 28 minutes. This is very minimal. So 20 degrees, write down on a piece of paper, Aquarius 20 degrees. You have to watch the video for Aquarius. And every time I mention Aquarians born, say, from 17 to 21 degrees and you're 20, they'll experience this in particular this year. And you should be like, okay, this is very specific for you. It's gonna manifest. You're gonna feel it. Then write down your sun sign. This person, for example, has sun at 14 degrees Leo. And the moon sign. The moon sign for this person is at 16 degrees Cancer. So if you've bought, for example, if your sun is in Leo, make sure that you know the degree for your sun. So in this case, you know, this is the sign. The sun is the sign everyone knows. I'm a Leo, I'm a Virgo, you know. So, but make sure you check the degree of your sun. Check the degree of your sun. Check the degree of your ascendant or moon, whichever one you're waiting. And then, so for example, if you have the all 15 videos, this person has to check the video for Aquarius, Leo, and Cancer. So I hope it's not too complicated. It's actually quite simple. You can watch the video a few times to understand what it means. But now know the degree. Write it down, have it on a piece of paper, and whatever you're listening to, if it's your moon sign that you're listening, knowing the degree, when you hear your moon degree, you're like, ting, that's specific for me. For the ascendant sign, overall, the whole prediction is very correct. While for the sun and moon sign, again, you would feel it maybe to a lesser degree, but especially when I mention your sun or moon degree, this is going to, it's happening. Whatever I talk about, it's happening. You feel it strongly. It's going to be so important for you that year. So, with that introduction, thank you so much. And we're going to start with the signs one by one. Capricorn 2019. And guys, this year continues to be very life decisive, pivotal for you, because Saturn, the planet that rules Capricorn, is still in your sign. This process started of Saturn transiting your sign, whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant, already last year from 2018. And some of you, especially those of you who have planets, basically the sun, moon, or ascendant in the first 10, 11 degrees of Capricorn, they felt that transit 2018 very intensely. They'll still continue to feel Saturn, but much more like the most difficult part of this transit is over for them. And they're just kind of more in 2019 and part of 2020, kind of let's say, continuing to work with those energies, but the crisis and the intensity of it has decreased already in 2019. They're familiar with those energy and the energies of Saturn, they're coping much better. But those of you who have their sun, moon, ascendant from 13 to 21 degrees in Capricorn, they will feel the Saturn transit in their first house, basically either over their ascendant, sun or moon, the most intensely. Sorry, I hope you see it here. This means the first house. They would see it, this means first house. They would feel whatever I'm talking about now most intensely than all other Capricorns. And then I'll mention what the difference is if you have the sun or the moon or the ascendant in Capricorn. But speaking generally about all Capricorns, Saturn in your first house, what it continues to mean for some of you, what you feel very intensely from this year if you're those degrees, or if you're the degrees after the 21 onwards, you're already going to be feeling what I'm talking about Saturn, but the most intense part of it will come around 2020. So, what is happening when Saturn transits the first house? Well, it's symbolically a new beginning, a new 29-year cycle for you, because the planet that rules you is coming back to its own sign, and it passes there over 2.5 years. So it's kind of a bit of a prolonged new beginning in your life. And this new beginning is emerging slowly, gradually. There's no fast steps taken. It's not like suddenly you're here and there. And those new beginnings that are starting for you, they were a long time in the coming. You are foreseeing them, or you are expecting them, or you are ready for them for some time. It's not something that shocks you, that comes to you out of the blue. These processes, you are aware of them. It's almost like a consequence, those new beginnings of things that you've completed from the past. So, as I said, it's not going to be some shock, but it's not always easy, because it's compared astrologically when Saturn transits the sign of the ascendant in particular, the sun and the moon as well, as being in labor. And this is the birthing process of some venture, of some new activity, of some new phase in your life. But as every birthing process, it might be laborious, long, maybe painful sometimes. You might feel like it's never over. It's like you're watching the clock and it's passing so much slowly, when something is not especially enjoyable and it's not especially easy. But Saturn, though, being in its own sign, don't worry, because it will create something very constructive and very lasting in your life. It's not like Saturn is creating it, you're creating it. It's your first house. Saturn is the planet that rules you. It's in its own first house. So your own initiatives are creating something lasting, but it's like building the foundations now. They take the longest, and the house is not complete yet. And Saturn transiting the first house, especially when it's in its own sign, will give some really stable, long-lasting product and results and something tangible in your life. But now is not the time when you'll see the results. Now is the time when you're making the efforts while Saturn is in your sign. So you might get a little bit impatient, or you might get a little bit, like, oh, when am I gonna see like that baby that I'm giving birth, or the result of this new beginning? But usually when Saturn moves away, things speed up and you start seeing the results. Just like I always give this example, when you're building a house, the foundations of the house take 3 times longer than the rest of the house. That's compared to like Saturn in the first house. And then after that, within a few weeks, the rest of the house is ready. Very quickly you start seeing. And when you've done the foundations, you've done the most work, but it's invisible. You don't see a house and you feel like, oh, no results yet, nothing. It's like all I've been doing, there's nothing. But you see it and you feel it, that it's productive, that it's slower results, but it's gonna give you something. And often people do such important things when Saturn transits the first house. They start usually some process that takes longer time, that takes a few years of establishing. Some of them, it might be a business. Some of them might be some educational program that takes a few years. Some of you might be that you're taking, but something that requires you hard work, personal involvement, and personal efforts to come out of your comfort zone, in the sense that you need to do more. It brings more duties and responsibilities of some sort, and you might feel like your life is quite routine right now, that because of some goal you have, or because of some new priorities that are setting and new beginnings that you're placing, you have to do something systematically, day over day over day, and it can feel a little bit of like a drawn out process, like a repetitive, on a run mill there, and routine. But don't forget, it's not always going to be like that. Saturn will move away. It's not always gonna require so much effort, and it's not gonna always be so much hard work, and eventually it won't be so time consuming. Usually Saturn, something that you begin new, is very time consuming, very effort consuming. It can feel like doing the dirty work for something, and we have to start from the bottom, just like we're building a foundation in order to climb on the top. And funny enough, I was having a cup of tea before I started doing this video, and I was watching Planet Earth, and they were showing those goats that basically live on vertical mountains. They're literally, the mountains are such an angle, and they're climbing on them. And I'm like, how amazingly synchronistic. I'm preparing for Capricorn now, and it made me think that this is exactly what you're going through right now, guys. You're this goat that is on this, and you might feel like everyone who is looking from below, they would see like, this is impossible. How are they gonna do it? This is crazy, and you're like climbing vertically up, and you can feel like you're climbing up, that's impossible according to the laws. But only you, Capricorns, you can do this thing, because you're born under the sign of Capricorn. You're here to show others feats of achievements in hospitable and austere and restricted environments, or very steep environments, with even restricted resources, where others can make it. And you aim high, because high, just like the goats, they go up there because it's safest. Yes, it's very difficult to get up there, but once they're there, they're safe from predators. That's why Capricorns generally are very ambitious. Whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant, you have this ambitious streak in you. You want to get on the top, because on the top you're safer from predators. You're safer, from the dangers down there. So this is what you're doing right now. Saturn transiting your sun, moon, or ascendant. You're doing this feat of climbing up on top of this mountain, and you can't do it fast. I was looking at the goats. They're so careful. They methodically and carefully think each of their step, because one little slip and they fall down. And it's the same with Capricorns as well. And the planet that rules you, Saturn. And what currently is demanded for you is to climb slowly, is to try and take more safe routes, because yes, it's very dangerous slope. It's very difficult, like it requires effort, just like a mountain you're climbing up. But you shouldn't hurry, you shouldn't rush. Whatever you're doing, don't force yourself too fast. The rule of Saturn is do every day a bit of the same, a little bit, a little bit here, a little bit there, persistently until it becomes something normal for you, and until it becomes not like a exertion too much, or it becomes, it's like when you're doing something new, it takes a certain time before it becomes like a habit, when it's no longer so difficult to do. And in the same way also, you should just carefully judge your steps, carefully contemplate your next movement. Again, don't take too hasty decisions of any sort, and Saturn does not allow things to rush anyway. You can just feel frustrated if you're rushing too much, and that might be especially hard for the younger Capricorns, those that are under the age of 36, because Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, matures at 36, and usually Capricorns, the Saturn transits are harder, especially transit over the first house, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, are harder for younger people because they're less patient, they want to get things done faster, they order and hard work, learn more with age basically, and maturity. And after 36, the transits of Saturn are much more easy to handle and give less frustrating, let's say, because we've learned to be patient by then. And the older you get, the easier Saturn transits get, unless they give you health problems, which sometimes later in age it can start doing. Then again, there's nothing you can do there. But when we come to achievements and to the things Saturn requires from us, we're much more realistic and practical and grounded after 36. So we're much easy to cope and to get the best result out of a Saturn transit. So if you're in that age bracket or even higher, I think that actually you might even enjoy this transit, because you feel in your own waters and you're an animal, let's say, that is created to do exactly this, to climb that steep hill, to take those efforts, even though for others it might feel impossible. You're going to do it because were built exactly for this. And Saturn in its own sign, it's in its own kingdom, and he knows what to do in his own kingdom there. He knows how to, to climb up or to do whatever is necessary. So you, of all people, will cope with Saturn transiting your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant sign in particular, based on any of the other signs. So if you ask someone else, oh, how is Saturn transiting your Ascendant? And oh, your Sun or whatever, and they say, oh my God, nightmare. It was like so hard. Don't listen to them unless they are, for example, Aquarius rising or Capricorn rising or Sun, Moon, or Ascendant in Capricorn, because only Capricorns deal so well with Saturn, because it's their boss, it's them. And the good thing is that when the planet that rules its sign, it's in that sign, it manifests there. So those new beginnings will give positive results. Yes, they'll be hard, they'll be given to you. It's just like the labor of a baby that takes longer, but they'll be very constructive. They'll take long time. They'll give long results. Plus, as I said, you have to be careful not to do something unlawful or to try to get there faster or to take shortcuts. You might slip down and fall, like those goals that I was watching. You have to do the tried and tested, or legitimize yourself. Those new beginnings that you're doing, they have to be very lawful. They have to comply with the law. You might have to acquire certain, for example, credentials and documents from government, and to legitimize yourself, in some way in the eye of the public. And whatever you're starting, it usually will require a lot of bureaucratic and institutionalized approval of some sort, and dealing with such institutions. When Saturn transits Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, often a person has to deal with government institutions, with with a lot of red tape, with a lot of rules and regulations and safety laws and rules of some sort, whatever you're doing. But it's good after all, because Saturn wants something to be safe. It might delay something. So, for example, whatever you're doing, that it delays some project of yours because it wants to make it safer. It wants to make it more legit, more publicly acceptable, when you have the right credentials, when you have the right documents. And actually, Saturn can give you a rise into public the start of public rise and being more somehow in the public eye. But if you're doing something again which is acceptable socially, which is done in the legal ways, which is done through personal efforts and taking step-by-step approach towards it. Okay, but as always, Saturn brings heavier responsibilities. You might have to deal with older people, for example. More had a friend when Saturn was transiting her ascendant, she had to be around much older people than her. She had to deal. Sometimes I've seen actually the passing away of an important person in your life is like some important separation and a new chapter starting in your life. And it might not be just physical death, it might be just separation through another person again, because you're starting a new chapter of some sort. But usually older people like grandparents or authority figures of some sort also play an important role in your life around that time. They can put pressure on you, or you might have to deal with such figures more as well, and institutions, as we said. On another level, the extra responsibilities and duty that you take, they can actually create much more authority. You can prove yourself as a much more mm, in the eyes of the public person with more authority and respect. But again, it requires you to work harder in some way. And I've seen people when Saturn transits the sun take promotions, for example. But again, some promotions, it's based on the already established experience on and recognition that they have based on all the experience. And it always involves extra responsibilities, maybe making the person have twice less free time, or if any at all. Uh, and if you're not in the right career when Saturn transits the sun, it can be the end of this career, because you become so discontent, and also the responsibilities there increase, or some authority figure like a boss or something becomes very intolerable, that you just makes you have a reality check, and you realize that you can't waste your life on this, which is making you miserable, and it can make you stop one career, and or makes you kind of slows down, so you can inspect, is this the thing I want to do? No. And this is also with the ascendant. It makes you rearrange your whole life priorities. What is it that I want to do? And that's why when Saturn transits the first house, people often, the things, they streamline their life. The things that are no longer necessary, they remove them, because they kind of, you develop a no-nonsense approach, because you start being aware of death, and you start being aware of aging when Saturn is around. Saturn rules aging and time, and you start being aware that time is running out. I maybe have 60 or 30 or 15 years left on this earth. What it is that I really want to do, what it is that is really that is really my priority here. What do I do with my time here? And in the face of that, in the face of awareness of impending and coming age and mortality of the person, and limited time, this is what Saturn makes us really aware of. We decide to prioritize only the really important things, and we streamline and remove other appendages from our personality, from our roles in life, from certain roles that are no longer, that are just, that maybe we've played that role now and it's time to move on. And you create for you, and you build from the bottoms up a new personality and a new life plan, let's say, exactly like a new life plan, basically. And that you might be fulfilling for the next 29 years. But now you're chipping away at a lot of things, so a lot of people can disappear from your life, a lot of that are, or maybe you just don't have time for them, that are just taking away from your time, from the really important priorities that you become so aware of what is really important, for your life. And that's why you can remove certain jobs and career directions that you realize they're just like, they're no longer necessary, they're just detracting from your life and relationships and careers and job. But if you're on the right path, and if you're doing something that is very that you like and that feels right for you, your responsibilities will just increase, and maybe you'll start you'd want to restructure it in some way, you'd want to create a different, more systemized and orderly approach to it. And the final result of Saturn transiting your sign is a lot more orderly life, a lot more simpler life, because you cut away all the time wasters, all the time wasting activities as well. There is no excesses when Saturn transits the sign of his sun, moon, especially the ascendant, the sun, the moon. The excesses are chopped and trimmed, and you don't allow yourself also, you kind of don't feel good if you allow yourself certain excessive behaviors with your food, with your body, or with your money, or with everything basically, or with your time generally. And if you do that, you kind of immediately see the repercussions for that, or you feel bad about it. So you almost like consciously, on your own desire, self-restrict yourself, and you put your more discipline in your life, more order. You make it more simple. You cut off unnecessary things, and often there is a bit more isolation as well. And this isolation is because you're giving priorities to the things that are important for you, rather than for things that take away your attention from the, from those things. And also because you're because of the many responsibilities that are around. And Saturn, of course, makes you a deeper thinker, more serious about life, about everything. Your attitude becomes like that, like a wise old person, and you can feel like you're maturing. You can feel like you're taking more responsibilities, becoming more disciplined, more ordered, more organized, more structured. That's the ultimate goal of Saturn, to remove also illusions as well. And you already are like that because you're Capricorns. So you kind of almost welcome that influence. It's not going to make it like easier always psychologically, emotionally, especially when Saturn transits the sun and the moon, because they're kind of enemies. When Saturn transits the moon, if your moon especially is on those degrees of Capricorn this year, you feel it. You might feel more lonely emotionally. Saturn dries out them, or some karmic relationship can come up. I've often seen that. I don't know, because mostly I have women clients. When Saturn transits their moon, at least 30-40% of them enter some really karmic relationship, because Saturn is something karmic, but usually it's a long-lasting, a long drawn-out relationship that has certain things to be worked on. Also, you can also start relationship when Saturn transit Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, but again, it's a bit slower, and it's with someone who is either older or more reserved, or there is a bit more cautiousness there, and it's a bit more testing, as everything Saturn is. But remember, Saturn in its own sign manifests, so it can manifest like such a, if Saturn is transiting your sun, such like a Saturnal figure in your life, a male. If it's the moon, such female role, or another emotional relationships. For women, even Saturn transiting the moon, I've seen them enter karmic relationships and things of that sort. You're generally with more serious attitude towards life. You're with the attitude of, and you can also end relationships because you feel like they're not serving you, that they're, as I said, your priorities are becoming much more streamlined and much more focused, and you're like, okay, I don't have time to waste and to fool around here, so it is what it is, And the best approach to have during a Saturn transit is, it is what it is. This shall pass too. Just kind of accept some kind of a detached attitude, and as an observer, and do your responsibilities, though. You can't avoid it. Saturn is there requiring you to do it without fussing, without cussing. As I said, younger people don't like it so much, but even the younger Capricorns will cope much better than any other signs when they have Saturn transits. And usually younger people, they don't like those restrictions that are put on them from law, from order, from governments, from institutions, from bureaucratics, from authority figures, which Saturn brings when it transits a sign. Those rules, like even having to build a business, for example, and you meet so many bureaucratic rules and stuff, and you have to go through all of them. It is frustrating, but Capricorns know you have to follow the rules, and then things work out, and it takes long time to manifest something materially. And basically, you're here in this incarnation, if you have Saturn, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant in Capricorn, to experience what it is to to start from the bottom and reach to the top with your own personal effort, step by step, gradually. For example, Sagittarius, they're here to experience in this incarnation what it is to manifest when you have faith. And often someone would look at the Sagittarius and say, oh, it's not fair, like they didn't make the necessary efforts, but look how positive they are, or they believed and they manifested that. But they're on that line of experience, they're on this incarnational path to see, to show, to be as an example to others that this is possible. But you, Capricorns, are here as an example to others that it's possible to achieve great feats, start from the bottom and climb that vertical mountain with personal effort, perseverance, little by little, day by day, step by step, and to reach to the top. So this is what you're going to be doing now. This is what you're going to be really coming into your life theme during this transit. And some of you have been feeling it already. And even despite of the many responsibilities and duties, you know how to cope with that. If anyone can climb a mountain, that's you guys. And I was talking about the moon being in those degrees. Sometimes it can mean more responsibilities towards parents or towards family. It can indicate responsibilities towards caring or taking care of someone. Or if you're a parent, like all of a sudden, parenting responsibilities can become very heavy. It can restrict fertility in some way, but if it gives motherhood, this motherhood is kind of accompanied by some restrictions of circumstances, of restrictions of heavy duties, and the mom having to do most of the things alone as well. But usually heavier parenting responsibilities, duties and caring for family and home, or responsibilities with the home or properties or real estate. This is the moon. And emotionally, it's harder and it's a bit more dry and lonelier. It's called like the dark. It's called like Sadhisati in Vedic astrology, which is kind of it's emotionally tough. And also female hormones can be slowed down or can be suppressed a little bit. But again, this also passes away. It's a necessary process to slow down so you can distance yourself from your emotions, and you can slow down the whole inner world experience, which is the moon, or family, personal life, so you can watch it frame by frame and understand it better. If it's the sun, we said it's usually career, duties and responsibilities, so some authority figure that is demanding towards you, your inner authority voice, and a reality check in regards to your career and direction in life. And it might mean just heavy responsibilities because you're building your kingdom, and there might be some delays and frustrations, but plow on day by day. If doors are not open, keep knocking on them. And usually if it's a different planet, if it's Jupiter, I would say if doors are not opening, it's not the right door when Jupiter is transiting your first house for you. If doors are not opening, keep knocking and keep trying over and over. This is the mantra of Saturn transiting you. Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. If it's the Ascendant that Saturn is transiting, well, everything that I talked about, it might be in career, in personal life, and the physical body, also for the Sun and Moon, can feel like it's more restricted, because all the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, they rule the physical body, but the Ascendant the most. But you can feel like some more stiffening conditions starting to happen, like drying, like coolness, like colds, like stiffening of joints. Sometimes I've even seen people that temporarily are like a breaking of the bone, so it stops the mobility in some way, because Saturn wants to freeze, to slow you down, and the first house, and Capricorn rules bones, so be careful about your bones, more in particular if Saturn is transiting your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. Be careful about fractures, be careful about something that restricts your movement. And the ultimate goal, if this is happening, is again to slow you down, to reconsider your life, to reconsider the direction you're going into, to reevaluate your priorities, and to trim away the unnecessary. You might be carrying too heavy of a burden, and you might want to drag into this new cycle, which you're starting on a clean slate for the next 29 years. You might want to be dragging your burden from the previous 29-year cycle, which you're finishing, and you can't do that. You have to start on on a much lighter step, on a much lighter and cleaner slate. So Saturn is streamlining this process for you now. If you're being stubborn and not letting go of those old things, Saturn will just will do it against your will. But many times, and because it is your own planet, you'll be ready for it, and you'll be ready to leave that other burden and garbage or unnecessary things behind to move into the new. And believe me, by the time Saturn finishes this transit, especially for those degrees by the end of 2019, just like the previous degree, are already starting to feel what I'm talking about, is that they will feel that they are much like they've left a big heavy burden behind them. They took new responsibilities, but they're new ones, and they're or they're it's like feels like a fresher start. Yes, it was hard, but they feel like the personality and what is left of them is more streamlined, is more elegant. Saturn is about elegance, wants to remove the unnecessary. And when people, Saturn rules older age, when people get older, they prefer order, they prefer elegance, they prefer simplicity. While younger people, they usually prefer cacophony, many clashing colors. Elegance is not that thing very often, unless you're a youngster with strong Capricorn, a liberal Saturn, So this is what Saturn wants to do, to make your life, your personality, your whole direction in life more elegant, more simple, unburdened. And I remember I had three best friends. They all had Saturn transit their ascendant, and what happened is that the three of them, when it happened after that, these 2 years of Saturn transiting the ascendant, or the sun or the moon, it's similar, they all of a sudden realize how kind of superficial their life has been before, because they were just all about having nice clothes and lots of possessions and spending their money on expensive creams and things. And they all of a sudden start appreciating simplicity. This is Saturn. They started appreciating, and they were like, simplicity and humbleness. And they were like, what was it? And they changed forever after that. And they were like, we no longer care about showing off, we no longer care about gathering those trinkets. And for the three of them, someone important left their life or passed away, a grandparent or something. And that kind of, because Saturn is the planet that rules death, it's with the sky. I'm not saying a death will be happening in your life. These are extreme cases. There was certain other things in their horoscopes going on as well. But in extreme cases, this is how Saturn shows us the importance of time, and that we have to prioritize the most important things and remove the other things, and they all, after those experiences, they return to more simplicity, and they return to more, the life became simpler, less burdened, more elegant, let's say, and the philosophy simpler and more grounded and more humble as well. And they felt like we're so much happier now. Yes, the process was laborious, but they say we feel like such more mature and person that actually has their priorities right, that has their whole life ordered better, and their expectations and their values and everything. So Saturn does this when it's transiting the sun, especially the ascendant sun or moon signs, and it's humbling experience, but you become a definitely more mature and grounded person, and your life, it becomes easier after that. The process of birth is more difficult itself, but it becomes easier. Just like when a woman gives birth, it turns out that the body purifies itself from so much, and she removes so much of the burden, and her whole blood apparently changes, and so it's a similar process. The labor periods the period is painful, but after that there is a regeneration of the whole body. But during that time, it can feel like your body, you can start feeling like you're aging, the awareness like I'm aging, and you might even start feeling like looking a bit older sometimes. And this pushes you again to take care of your body and to prioritize your health. And this pushes you to start, to do some conscious restriction. It might be restriction of food, restriction of some kind of certain aspects of your life, because, as you know, longevity is connected to restriction of calories, restrictions of self, restriction of It sounds, boring, but it is, and the person, when Saturn transits the ascend its own sign, does it on their own will because they're ready for that. They streamline, they remove so many things from their life and carry on unencumbered further, and that you're building something. So I said this a few times, so maybe I mentioned everything. You can feel like more dryness in the joints. I mentioned that. What can help you combat, because you might feel a little bit down as well and overwhelmed or tired, and you might look a little bit tired or older as well. Sometimes the first signs of aging sometimes can appear. Is to counteract it, the enemy of Saturn is the sun. So have a bit more sun, eat fruits and vegetables that are full with the light of the sun, like citrusy. And even though you might feel like wearing darker gray colors, because Saturn does that grayish, darkish, brownish, blackish, usually people start looking more like they're coming out of an office, or just more simpler clothes. Just put a little bit of a color on yourself, of the brighter colors, just to uplift yourself, and also eat foods that, because Saturn is cooling and drying and stiffening, eat more heating foods to warm up your body, like red wine, or like radishes, so those warming up foods, as I said, that are full of the sun or that are a little bit spicy in some way. And yes, and maybe do some yoga, because when Saturn transits, you can stiffen with joints and you can become less flexible. So it's a good thing, but be careful again not to stretch connective tissues and break bones, because these are a bit more susceptible, and plus it's harder for the body to absorb minerals when Saturn is around. So you might need, and that's why also people lose weight when Saturn is around over the sun, moon, or ascendant, because the body does not. For some of you, might be a good thing, this restriction of that Saturn imposes. Okay, so what else is happening? And again, as I said, you can get more positions of authority and respect, start new beginnings, but they're slow and require effort. Sometimes you can even start, but it's again, be patient. The results will probably start becoming obvious when Saturn moves away from those degrees currently, or even from Saturn, from the sign from the sign Capricorn itself. At the same time, the South Node, Ketu, is also there in your first house, guys, and which means that Rahu will be in your seventh house, and Ketu will join Saturn. So Ketu wants you to let go of something. Again, we have this theme here. You're building something new, though, don't forget, but also there's the theme of letting go of something is very strong. And the theme of becoming more selfless, because the first house is me, and Ketu there is about maybe sacrificing part of your needs, or you won't have so much time for yourself. And again, the theme of time is here coming. You might feel like there is not enough time during this time, and Ketu in the first house might make you kind of a bit neglect yourself even, but Saturn makes sure that it's keeping you and trying to make you sort out your priorities. It's not going to leave you in disorder and cacophony. But Ketu is like, and Rahu is like, I'm passionate about others, and I'm excited about a relationship, or I'm excited about business partnerships of some sort. And Saturn gives you heavy responsibilities towards yourself in those new beginnings, but Ketu makes you a little bit disinterested towards them, and it's like, okay, if I have to do it, I'll do it. And you have to approach it like that. Okay, you have those responsibilities. If you do them, accept it. The South Node Ketu is also about acceptance and kind of going with it, and adopting an attitude of the observer. But where you're really going to feel, and again, it's about letting go of something. And this again can mean losing weight. Both two factors that are, Saturn is about restriction, making smaller in the first house, or over your sun or your moon as well, especially over the moon or the ascendant, it can make you lose weight. And Ketu is about letting go of something. So you might have to let go of part of your weight as well, which is might be good for some of you, when I just had Ketu in the first house and I just could not put on weight, and I was it was, yeah, it's good probably. And Rahu in the seventh house is where you get really passionate. When Rahu is in the seventh house, you get really passionate about another person. For example, it might be like getting obsessively in love with someone, putting a lot of attention on your relationship, or even sacrificing your kind of time for yourself because of a relationship, because of someone, Or it might be that you become very passionate about creating business partnership of some sort. That because Rahu can take you up suddenly on a higher, faster trajectory to privileges, to rise. This is the nature of Saturn. And through a relationship, you can suddenly rise to high social ranking of some sort. For example, you can meet someone that is richer than you, or someone that's more famous and that introduces you to certain circles. Might be you can even have sexually privileged relationships, like a sexual relationship that leads you to some privileges that you want, like to be in the cool, crowd, or with more money, or because Rahu is ravenous for material acquisitions, for privileges, and you receive this through a partner. You can also meet partners that are quite either materially successful, of some sort, very ambitious, like Rahu. And it's not necessary just to be a sexual partner. These are business partners as well. For example, when I had just Rahu now for a year and a half in my seventh house, I did not acquire new sexual partners, but I acquired a lot of business partners. And I was actually if you notice in the past year and a half, I wasn't so much the one doing videos. I stepped back a little bit because Ketu in the first house asks you to take a little bit of back seat. And I put in the front seat partners. So Rahu is the more visible, it's the amplified, while Ketu is the hidden one. Ketu is in the first house. You're a bit hidden. You're also working hard on something. Don't forget, you're starting new beginnings. So you're the bit hidden, and then there is a partner that is shining somehow brighter, or that it's more put in the public, or that's the one that's dragging you forward, and the one that's dragging you upward. And maybe you can make like business contracts with very ambitious people, like it might be someone who is PR for you or something like that, and who is and Rahu is not the most moral always, or it's not the most, it doesn't care about rules or what is spiritually right or morally right. Rahu is like, I want profit, I want prestige, because Rahu in mythology pretended to be a god to drink from the juice of immortality. So it's a pretender. It's someone who has the mentalities of I have to get to my goal at any price, whatever the price is. I'll sell my soul to the devil even. So you can get like some really ambitious, for example, agents, because seventh house to partner with someone. And if you don't have the ambition yourself, for example, I've seen people suddenly rise when Rahu transits their seventh house because they partner up with an ambition agent or marketeer or another peer or business partner or public relations or something like that drags them up, or marriage partner who puts them, who kind of puts up their status and who manipulates almost their own image, because Ketu is like you become, more. When it comes to your own image, you kind of let go of the control. But then Saturn is making you work on yourself, and you're making some changes there. And maybe someone notices, another figure, it might be a partner, sexual, personal, business, notices and those changes that are happening, and kind of wants to, by combining with a partner, this is where you can have sudden successes, material, rise to more popularity as well. And that's what happened for me, more business partnerships, and you're craving and desire privileged business partnerships with fascinating people, with eccentric people. Like I partnered for that year and a half when Rahu was transiting my seventh house with a lot of very eccentric and fantastic and ambitious and very controversial astrologers, and they brought the channel up to from 60,000 subscribers to almost 200,000, So that was my ticket while Rahu was in the seventh to fast climb upwards. Even though Saturn is slowing things down a bit because it's in your first house, but it's slowing down the process of new beginnings for you on a personal level. in some way with your priorities. But your ticket to fast rise is another person or partnership. Or it might be that your marriage partner, suddenly there is some rise there or some exotic opportunities for them. And you can partner with, and when it comes to personal relationships, it can mean that you make personal relationship with foreigners now. Like you can meet someone who is Rahu, like foreigner, darker skin, someone who is richer or from a very different social background, different skin color, different ethnicity than you. Someone who is, for example, like very more taboo relationship with someone. In Vedic astrology, Rahu means someone who's been married before, because it's someone who is polluted. They consider Rahu a polluted planet because it breaks taboos and it breaks conventions, and it's like in ancient cultures it was no to be with someone who's been married. Nowadays we're a progressive society, we're a very Rahu society, so it can mean like being with someone who has been divorced, for example, or meeting someone who is already in a relationship. Sometimes this can happen. Or if you, I know people who have Rahu in the seventh house by birth, that they meet this spouse is someone who is married, and they meet while this person is still married, and they break the marriage because Rahu wants to appropriate something that is not his. Like Rahu appropriated the juice of immortality that it wasn't his. So there is possibility with Rahu, if you're in a relationship with someone who is already involved, that you can take it to the next level. For example, again, as I said, Rahu is not the most moral, but be careful with Rahu. Because if you're in a stable marriage, you might be tempted into more illicit relationships or into taking more risk, as Rahu is risk taking. But thankfully, Saturn slows this down. It makes an aspect to the seventh house as well. So I don't think it will lead to making crazy, leaving a lawful marriage, because it can lead to some illicit, excitable sexual relationship. But if you're not married, if they're not married, and if the situation and you're not married, then it can just give sudden changes in your relationship status, like you meeting someone suddenly very different than you, and even the transit of Rahu over the seventh house from the ascendant or from the moon, not so much from the sun though. So if it's your ascendant or moon in Cancer, in Capricorn, then Rahu is transiting there, can lead the meeting of a fated life partner, and can can indicate marriage. In Vedic astrology just says always when someone gets married, and they don't have in that culture dating 5 years before that. So probably for us it also means meeting someone, not just get married. Is when they'll say when Rahu is transiting the seventh, or Rahu or Ketu are transiting the signs of the moon or the ascendant, or in the seventh from there. So this is something like it can bring a fated relationship for you. But again, I have to warn you with Rahu, because Rahu can be a opportunistic. So there are possibilities. Yes, other people that are ambitious and driven, they can rise you because you are serving their ambitions in some way. They can be like a trampoline for you, but because you are serving their ambitions as well, and once they're done with you, they can drop you. This is the nature of Rahu sometimes. So just be aware that might be opportunistic partnerships that are happening. And if you know this is a possibility, I don't have like expectations of loyalty and loyalty to your personality and morality, then it's such business partnerships, you'll be okay. Okay, it was mutually beneficial, and honestly, I met just so many ambitious people during that time, and because I'm naturally Ketu in the first house makes you kind of cringe a little bit, but those people helped me so much, and when they're no longer necessary, those partnerships, I'm not going to try and keep them, and friendships, I know it sounds horrible, but it's Rahu is like that. So be careful that you're not taking advantage of others to some extent, because these are charismatic people. They're driven, they're ambitious. The Rahu people that will come into your life, they are kind of very charming. They're glamorous often. Rahu is like that. They're privileged, and they can promise you the world. And just like Rahu pretended, how he drank the juice of immortality, he pretended to be a very beautiful woman and distracted the gods and drank you know, the juice of immortality. So like someone in a very tempting shape can come to you in this period 2019, and it can be something very glamorous, fascinating partner. And it's good because it's making you break the pattern, to break out of your comfort zone, to explore different things, this person, to explore taboo and forbidden things. But you know, sometimes it can be like the snake that seduces us and bites us. You know, and that's the nature. Rahu is a draconian reptilian in nature. uh, but it gets exciting also. It can bring a lot of very exciting sexual experiences when Rahu transits the seventh house with foreign partners and such things. You know, I used it for business. So thanks God, I couldn't do it another marriage at this period. um, all right. So and especially this becomes very potent if you there is a solar eclipse. The first one is on January at 15 degrees in Capricorn, and it's with South Node. So anyone who has anything from 11 degrees to, I would say, till 18 degrees, put 3 degrees before and after, 12 till 18, but especially 15 degrees in Capricorn. Wow. Already from December or January the 5th, when the transit is, when the eclipse is, your life's gonna change. There is a new beginning for you. If it's your son, it might be in regards to your career. You have to let go of something, or some male figure in your life or career. And you have to take care of your health. When there are eclipses on Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, the health, because of those big changes that are happening, it's like a mini crisis on the body, and the health weakens. But also for accidents, they have to watch, whether it's your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, those degrees in Capricorn. You know, but it's like you're letting go of something in a big way. They might be letting go of something if it's the moon, mother figure, or some emotional attachment, and the start of a new beginning. You're releasing something to start a new beginning. And if it's your ascendant, basically your whole life direction is shifting in a big way. It's a pivotal year. All those things that I was talking about for Ketu in the first house, for Rahu in the seventh, very pivotal. You'll feel it the most if you have your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant around those degrees. And the other eclipse is on the 2nd of July. That is very important. It's so the whole July and June before that, and July, August, and it's 10 degrees Cancer, so it's in your 7th house. So it means that if you have from around, let's say, 7 to 13 degrees Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, this is a time where a lot of the Rahu themes will happen. New beginnings through relationships, some big shifts through another person that's happening, partnerships of some sort, and changes in career with the sun, or with male figures. So big life fated events. And for me, it's important to see the personal horoscope. I can't predict like that, because if it's your sun in those degrees, but the sun is in the 5th house, it might be a big fated event in regards to a lover. But if it's your moon at those degrees, but your moon is in your 9th house, it might be big fated event in relocation to a foreign country, or high education of something, you know. So the house is also important, but if it's the moon, usually it's parenthood, mother, personal life, emotional connections, the sun, career, goals, men, direction in life, vitality, and the moon and the sun are health, ascendant, everything in life, like everything. And there is another eclipse after that. So those who are, it's at the 16th of July, it's a 24 degrees Capricorn. And it's a lunar eclipse with the South Node. Again, a release period, or the period of completion. You can see the results of something, but you're finishing it and you're moving out on after that. You can see the results of something. So let's say from around 21 degrees to around 27 degrees, if you have Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, this is the pivotal time, is July for you, or July 16th. But it's gonna last for 2 months after that, you know, so you can feel it already in June, July, August. So very intense January, very intense July, guys, because January affects you, as I said, the previous degrees, I mentioned them, 15 degrees. Then July affects the 10th degree, so from 7 to 13, and also from 21 to 27 degrees. So these are the big fated events with big changes in regards to you and partnerships, your life, direction in life. And there is a last eclipse again, and that's December. That's the very end of the year, December 27th. So if you happen to be born, on January 5th or December 26th, sorry, 26th of December, and it's at 4 degrees basically. So if it's your sun is from 1 till 7 degrees, especially for there is an eclipse again then. So if you're born on 27th of December, 25th, 24th, if it's your sun there, or if it's your moon or ascendant, those degrees, or your sun, or if you're born those previous times that I said. Wow, so many. It's like Capricorn is the most happening sign this year, guys. And I know Saturn is in your sign, and actually this is good because it makes you, Saturn being in your sign, it's making you be more more resilient. It's making you be stronger, and it's making you be like on your own 2 feet, like in your own kingdom. You're in your own kingdom. All those changes that are happening for you, all those new beginnings, you're taking them in stride, and you're strong. You're like still when Saturn is in its own sign. Plus, Saturn in its own sign slows down. It brings new beginnings, but it slows them down. And maybe this is necessary to you. It slows down those very sudden things because eclipses bring very sudden changes. And maybe Saturn in the first house will give you the time to assimilate those things, because despite of the eclipses which suddenly swap everything around and change, because the eclipses bring the things that are like, wow, Rahu and Ketu, they're the ones that suddenly everything changes, like, but because Saturn is there, it will slow down those processes of change. So you have time to assimilate it, and to implant it, and to react adequately, and to react in a Saturnian, wise and mature way. Otherwise, when Saturn is not there, and just Rahu and Ketu are creating eclipses in your first and seventh house, they're basically transiting there. The speed of changes in life is so fast, you can be thrown into a little bit of a crisis, or slight mental instability. People lose it sometimes, but because Saturn is part of those eclipses, it's going to keep you stable. It's going to slow down, as I said. It's going to keep you more grounded. Wow, you see how many people are affected by those things. And I decided to continue with Jupiter. I usually start with Jupiter, but I was like, okay, I'll start with Saturn, give them the heavy stuff. And then Jupiter is in your 12th house. So it's not all going to be, and it's in its own sign, so it's very strongly manifesting. So what it is, well, Saturn requires new beginnings, and Ketu letting go of things. But 12th house is the ending as well, releasing. And Jupiter is making releasing much easier. And Jupiter is making it like it's manifesting those releases, but it feels like liberation. So those things you have to let go of, Capricorns, especially Capricorn rising, to a lesser degree sun or moon, but you feel it too. So those releases, those new beginnings that Saturn is starting, and those things that it cuts cord and you move into a new cycle, are Jupiter is allowing you to cleanse house, because the 12th house is like, like that dark back room that we have where we put all the dirt and we lock it, and the house looks clean, but we've hidden everything in the cupboard, and when you open it, everything falls all over you. Well, that's the 12th house, and Jupiter there puts a light on it and cleans it, and kind of and melts it with its warm light, whatever dirt is there. But it's a natural process, not a painful process. So you'll be able to release the past and those subconscious built up muck and pain much more easy when Jupiter is transiting there. So it's spiritually healing period. Plus Jupiter send the trine to the 8th and a trine to your 4th sign from the ascendant sun and moon, and they're all emotional houses, and they're all houses of the subconscious, of feelings, of, and like how all they say, and it's true, that all health problems and issues, they start on the astral level. and they start from feelings usually, where we store painful feelings, we can't heal them, we can't understand them, we can't compartmentalize them, and we lock them somewhere. Well, these are the 8th, 12th, and 4th houses, and Jupiter is shining on them. um, its benevolent rays and helping, like angels are helping you there. So this is so associated when Jupiter transits one of those 3 houses, but particularly the 12th, with healings and ending of difficult karma. Plus, you're starting new beginnings with Saturn on the ascendant, and something that have been like an underwater stone for you for years, when you always strip some self-sabotaging behaviors, some addictions, some unhealthy attachments, or some fears that are subconscious, like paranoias, and like 12 houses, those fears that we don't understand, like you might have an irrational fear of water, or of authority figures, or of the sound of planes, and that's usually past lifetime. Something happened there, but we've forgotten it, it's buried. So Jupiter transiting there allows those to dissolve and to liberate you, and to be released from those things in an easy way. And it's so apt. While Saturn is transiting your first house, initiating those new changes, Jupiter is helping you release the old. And so you no longer drag that shit with you as well. And at the same time, so it's fantastic time to work with a psychologist or behind the scenes on your subconscious, to do past life regressions, to go to spiritual counselors as well, because the 12th house is the guidance from the invisible worlds that our ancestors or our angels or guardian angels, whatever you believe in, that they do for us. So Jupiter is definitely gonna give the shine, the truth for you. And especially Jupiter in Sagittarius, the sign of truth, it's so strong and so positive that when you go to such guides and past life, or psychologist, or someone that you work privately behind the scenes with on your subconscious, on resolving fears and such kind of things, or releasing the past, or just needing counseling and guidance of any sort, you'd come to the right specialist, to very knowledgeable Jupiterian type of people, to very beneficial people, like a paternal figure, knowledgeable paternal wise figure as well, that will help release those things and help you release those things. For example, when I had Jupiter transiting the 12th house, and Jupiter was no way that strong as it's going to be for you in Sagittarius. But when Jupiter transited the 12th from my ascendant, I always feel from the ascendant the strongest. I went to I called a psychic, and without telling her anything, she just, and I haven't even started my career yet, it was 2 or 3 years before that, and she did say that she's seeing, without knowing me, and she said, you're gonna be famous. She said my life, what it's gonna be. She said, you're gonna be famous, and you're coming out of the shadows, and you're gonna have lectures in front of hundreds of people, and people will know you, and I see you on TV and radio. And I'm like, what, wait, I want to do astrology. What is this TV, radio? There was no YouTube even then. It was just, I didn't know about YouTube and stuff like that. And she saw it all, and she said it's all coming, and she predicted so many things. And that was the best and most correct reading I've ever had. Jupiter transiting the 12th house. You get the right. It's almost like you deserve now. You're not always given the spiritual counsel. So many people can come to the same amazing psychic, but if they have not deserved the spiritual counsel karmically, if they're not at the time where it's deserved by them, they might get very scant information or mixed information. But usually when Jupiter is transiting the 12th house, this is the time for such things. This is also the time when you can develop a lot of joy from studies of metaphysical, of the occult, of some deep research. Fantastic time with great results. If you need to spend prolonged time somewhere isolated, like in the art studio, 12 house is the imagination. Jupiter will expand your imagination tremendously. So if you're someone who needs to do something artistic in a studio, spend long time away, fantastic time, And it comes in line with the isolation of Saturn that gives in the first house because of duties and responsibilities usually. But you get joy out of this isolation, and you create amazing pieces of the imagination. uh, or if you're a researcher in a laboratory, or you're doing a PhD and you need to research things for a year and stay kind of more isolated in libraries, laboratories, such kind of isolated environments, fantastic time. Jupiter is going to give you success, deep understanding of a topic, of a subject, almost intuitive answers to matters. You know, and the 12th house is the dream state. You can receive answers and counseling and advice from ancestors in your dream state when Jupiter is in the 12th house. Your dreams will become much more vivid, or particularly they'll carry prophetic. They'll carry information about the future, or a symbolic information that is meaningful for you, that carries answers for you, that is given to you from ancestor or from guardian angels that's caring for you. Jupiter opens the gates to access to the invisible realms, but in particular to the benevolent beings, because other planets can open the access to less benevolent beings. But Jupiter opens to those benevolent influences, the guardian angels, the communication between us and them, things or loved ones that are past. That's why they say when Jupiter transits the 12th house, we have like a guardian angel on our side. The invisible force watches after us, and our loved ones, past ones, angels. If you call to your angels, you'll hear. If you try to find out what your totem animal is or guardian angel, you might see them, visualize them, you might dream of them. Uh, you might find the right psychical medium to connect you to them, and it's you're gonna get answers now from those invisible realms. Or if you're someone like the great scientists that would go to sleep thinking about problem, because 12 house is thinking, they'll dream them. Just like Nikola Tesla, he has in his birth chart Jupiter in the 12th house, so his imagination is huge, and it gives him access to the invisible realms with answers ready made. And Lomonosov, the one, Mendeleev, he dreamt the Mendeleev table of the chemicals, of the alignment of the chemicals, after thinking deeply and long time in isolation, 12th house, about this issue. He dreamt it again. The answer was given in the dream. So you can receive powerful, important answers in your dreams, or with such other mystical ways. And also the 12th house on a more mundane level is going away, having a break, taking a holiday. How good it is that Jupiter is giving you this escape door there, while Saturn is in your first house. Giving, if just Saturn is in the first house and Jupiter is somewhere else, it's usually such a drudgery. It's like work, 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 work. But now when Jupiter entered your 12th house, from the end of 2018 and most of 2019, you'd have access to private enclosure, to sanctuary of some sort. You'd have access to travel to a foreign country on a holiday. You'd have access to going to some isolated place and take a break. So while you're building some new beginnings, while you're starting this more painful, laborious process, it's almost like Jupiter is giving you those longer breaks, or this laughing gas between the contractions of this new birth, or that is giving you like an epidural a little bit. It can also expand the tendency towards escapism, but I think Saturn will, and like through drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. But I think you have your serious cap on and sober cap on with Saturn in the first house, so it's gonna balance out, even if you occasionally go a bit all out in excess in regards to escaping reality. Saturn will quickly bring you down to earth, being in your first house, and remind you that you have serious work now, not to get distracted. So it's kind of going to be a good balance of hard work and repetition and more duties, and kind of streamlining and cutting off things from your life. And at the same time, uh, an ability to escape occasionally into your own imagination, into a world of prayer, meditation, into sanctuary, into some hotels, or just some beautiful places or foreign places. Jupiter transit in the 12th house gives access to foreign places, definitely. If you want to, you can have like a new beginning, Saturn in the first house, in a foreign place. Like Jupiter can allow relocation to faraway land of some sort, but because Saturn is in the first house, it's going to be more hard work. You're going to have to build up a new identity from scratch there, prove yourself from scratch. But Jupiter gives this window of escape. And if you're in industry that's connected to hotels, to holidays, to sanctuaries, spas, hospitals, prisons, you can have a very successful year, an abundant year, or important positive year, because Jupiter is blessing those areas of the 12th house. Also, I sometimes have seen um, uh, I forgot what I was trying to say. But yes, they can be also healings on a deep emotional level, release and liberation of some sort, but they can be some physical restriction of another way. They can be emotional release, but because Saturn is in the first case, there can be some physical restriction like stiffness in certain part of the body or inability to, but Jupiter gives ability to try go to faraway places. So the possibility for travel is very likely. All right, and on another level, and it's Jupiter is also making trying to your fourth house good time if you want to relocate somewhere, as I said. Uh, all right, and some private hidden support can come to you, this 12th house, from for more private, secretive, and even some wealth and abundance can come to you from some underhanded dealings or closed door dealings, behind the scenes dealings. And I want to mention a few other degrees. Uranus is going to make a trine, and this is only for people that see their degrees. And trine is a very good aspect from people that have from 2 till 7 degrees, anything in Capricorn. And that's very helpful transit. Actually, the previous year, actually from 0 as well, because Uranus still April at 0 degrees, and then it for the rest of 2019 and part until April 2020 is going to affect those degrees from 2 till 7, but yes, from 0 till 7. And especially because 2018, those degrees from 2 to 7 or even 0 to 7 were mostly affected by Saturn. So 2018 was a very Saturnian year for them. And you look back, there was more challenges, more having to work harder, to push harder, to, all of those things that I talked about Saturn. But this year, you, compared to other Saturns, you feel much more livelier, you'll feel much more energetic, you'll feel like being reborn because Uranus is making a positive, easy aspect to your planets, to Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. And it's going to make you excitable, rejuvenated. It's going to make you feeling like new, even though Saturn lowers vitality, but it did already for you the previous year. Now Uranus will bring that juices and the excitability back to you, and the joie de vivre, the joy from life more. And if it's your ascendant, sun, or moon, Uranus can introduce, for example, if it's the sun, a new career opportunities, or you can grow upon career through technology, through mass media, through social movements. You can expand your career through a lucky sudden jump of some sort and sudden rise in a positive way that does not disrupt the rest of your life. There can be an interesting, excitable man that appears in your life because the sun represents male, or something with your already existing man in your life, that something positive happens in their life, but something new, something that gives them more freedom. Also, it can mean like more freedom that you receive in your career, in your the kingdom that you're building for yourself. But it's supportive for career, it's supportive for innovations in career and bringing new things. It's supportive for being more excited for science, for astrology careers, for careers in self-employed careers of any sorts. Is very positive for careers that give you freedom of movement. Is very positive for careers in media, in TV, for careers in social activism, for political careers, or for careers connected with new technologies. And if it's your moon, it's again can improve can bring some excitable relationship to you, new interesting women in your life. It can bring positive new developments in your personal life in regards to also relocating to a place that feels more alive, more excitable, that makes you feel alive again. Maybe making some new bringing some new things to your home, some new exciting parenthood will feel more exciting, not so heavy like the previous year 2018. Responsibilities towards loved ones, towards family, they would feel like you feel excited about them again, or there's some new circumstances there that enliven the whole situation. It's not so repetitive, it's no longer routine. You can be new house, new such kind of stuff. And if it's the ascendant, the whole, you just lighten up. This, what I was talking about, Saturn transiting ascendant, you might have felt older and more groggy in 2018, but now you're going to start feeling lively and excitable again, and new ideas will come to you for about your whole life. You can incorporate something more funky into your appearance without it being disruptive, without it being crazy. And you're going to feel more liberated in your movements overall with the sun, moon, or ascendant. You're more liberated, more truthful to what you're doing, more aligned with yourself. And then we have Neptune is actually helping you a little bit from people that have from 14 to 19 degrees Capricorn, sun, moon, or ascendant. Neptune is making a sextile to you from Pisces, which is your third house. It's, if you have those degrees, this is fantastic for anyone who is in. And don't forget that Saturn is there. So Neptune is going to help you a little bit because Saturn passes over those degrees 3 times. And Neptune is going to kind of uplift you a little bit more gently by receiving some gentle support from someone. If you're too hard on yourself or someone else is too hard on you, with Saturn usually this happens, you can receive some support from friends. Third house is also maybe read some more uplifting spiritual books. Neptune is about spirituality, divine love. You can receive the feeling that there is gentle support from angelic beings, because Neptune rules those, or from invisible beings, or from divine love that is coming to you, and you can become more aware of it through reading about it, talking about it, or even you can feel this love and gentle support that comes to you from teammates, friends, and people in your environment, or siblings and relatives of some sort. And communication and talking on such topics can be gently uplifting for you, and that can be good for starting new beginnings, because Saturn is transiting here and putting a lot of work, but especially those degrees in regards to some creative project, of some spiritual project, of project or career that is connected to water, to alcohol, to drinks, to pharmaceutical drug things, that's connected to spiritual work, that's connected to healing work, or that is connected to work to do with arts, artistic, music, fine arts, and things like that. So they, despite of the hard work they have to do, things Neptunian go well for them. And finally, last but not least, Pluto is from 20 to 23 degrees in Capricorn. Oh my God, how many degrees in Capricorn are being activated this year? I mean, like some of the other signs had just like 5-6 degrees activated. You have like all over the place. Well, those 20 to 23 degrees for you, guys, it's Pluto once every 265 years or something, or 45 years or something like that, that Pluto transits on those degrees. So if you happen to have your sun, moon, or ascendant there, well, your life is never going to be the same again. Or actually, this is the end of a kind of because it takes such a long time for Pluto, so rarely, it's once in a lifetime experience, and some people will never have Pluto transit their sun, moon, or ascendant. But the brave one that agreed to pass by, and actually not brave, their souls are excited when they know there is such a Pluto transit that's going to happen on one of the major points in their horoscope before they incarnate, because they know this is the purging time and the time of the purge of the past lifetimes. So for you, the start of a new beginning is way intense, you know. And actually, for some of you, the 20th and 21st degree, it also corresponds with the Saturn transiting there. You're gonna get it out. I think the 22nd degree will feel it too. It's gonna be the most intense and important period in your life ever. I believe the most memorable, the most emotionally intense, because Pluto brings on the surface feelings that have been stored for many past lifetimes, because Pluto is the energy that rules all our past lifetimes, the traumas from those, and they're the buried ones, and they will come to the surface. It will be like a healing crisis for many of you, but this transit will continue for 2 years, so 2019 and 20. Usually it's strongest when it starts, so 2019 and 20, you feel the destruction of the old you, whether it's your emotional old you, your that's the astral, the mental or the physical old you, or the physical circumstances of your life, your self-identity, your, the old ego, or the the sun represents the mind in astrology, or the spirit, the moon, the soul, or the astral, the ascendant, the body, or the personality, the identity. So one of those three will be killed and reborn. And usually, I'm not talking literal death, usually, it's not that. It's very rare that Pluto brings that. But they can be death around you, that you become more interested, because Pluto wants you to get much deeper, to get interested about life after death, about occult topics, about answering and researching, because Pluto is about digging and finding answers about the big topics in life, or the scary topics in life, and to confront them. The things that you are most afraid of, you would have to confront now, not because life sucks and God wants to scare you, but because God wants to empower you. And it wants to show you that your fears are just fears. I had a friend who was Pluto ascendant 10 degrees, and her sun was there at 9 degrees, and or something like that. And Pluto transited both of them within the same year. And her biggest fear is that um, her partner will leave her, and she would lose all the financial support and all the famous people that they were, and all the, all the status that she always had. They were quite wealthy, and that's what happened. He left her, and all the perks and the hundreds of thousands of dollars a month she had access to, everything was taken with not a single dollar left. So she confronted her biggest fear. But during those 2 year period when Pluto was transiting there, and it was in her first house, so ascendant and sun, she created her own business, and actually she became super rich now. She is covers most of the businesses in London within 2 years. She did that. So Pluto made her confront her biggest fear. So she felt like her life was falling apart, and she was like, that was my biggest fear. But and she was saying while it was happening, I feared this for so long, but now that it's happening, it's not as scary as I thought. So it's confront the thing that is you're really fearful of. This is what Pluto wants you. It might be a person, it might be a situation, and you take your power back. And she got empowered. Her power was taken. The husband or the lover that was there, a very rich lover, took away the power, but she took her power back, and she became wealthy on her own, because she never believed she could do it. Yes, she can. Of course, Pluto can make you, can put you from the top down and raise you, because Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. Because some people are afraid Pluto comes, will I die? No, a big part of your identity, or maybe it might be career that dies, might be a personality, or big aspect of your life, might be a relationship, might be a living circumstance of some sort, might be your, usually it's the whole karmic burden that you've been carrying from many life is being incinerated like the phoenix bird. So you come out like a much brighter and resplendent bird and strong again. So basically, like my friend I was telling you, she took her power back again, and she created it, because Pluto transiting over his sun, moon, ascendant gives you tremendous power and focus, and you can achieve feats of, like, acts of feats of that people, that's like, inhumane things that that they thought impossible. I've seen billionaires made. I've seen people lose everything and start all over and become. Or Pluto can make millionaires. First, it can first drop you down, or it can, and then it can rise you up very fast as well. But through an amazing willpower that it gives. So you, and also can give you very concentrated focus and energy to achieve some great feat. It might be physical, it might be about overcoming some weakness, taking your power back. That's what Pluto wants to do. But in order for you to take your power back, usually it can intensify first the abuser, or the thing that's taking your power. It might be a substance, it might be an attitude or a fear, and it makes you confront that fear. So you might feel like it's the worst thing. And actually you then go, and Pluto gives you this strength to overpower that and to succeed, and to see that it's not a scary. So you feel so much more empowered. You feel, on a very different level. First, it might freeze you, and sometimes power struggles happen. Powerful power struggles with someone can happen, or within yourself, with your own consciousness. It's like, because it's a conjunction, usually it's like more internal process, but it might be an outer figure, someone who's trying to control you, to manipulate you, to take your power subtly or not so subtly or abusively. And again, it's about pushing you to the brink, so you take your power back again. So those power struggles, and it can make you yourself, you might feel like more controlling, possessive, that you want to control everything to the minute detail, and it can make you obsessed about something. But again, you can use that energy to create something incredible, because the obsession is such a powerful driving energy. And instead of focusing it on your partner or on something else, focus it on some project, because it is a conjunction, Pluto transiting over Sun, Moon, and then you can achieve a lot with it. It has the energy of Mars, of action, you know. But sometimes when Pluto is around, we start noticing themes of death, conspiracy, death and rebirth more, sometimes surgeries and stuff like that. All right. I think I said the most important things, Capricorn. Just let me tell you that there is going to be, when Mars is going to be in the signs, the cardinal signs, when the more hectic times for you are going to be, and the times when things speed up and you have to be more careful about confrontations. But from the beginning of the year till the middle, so January and February, till mid-February, Mars is in Aries, which is your 4th house, Capricorn. So you can have, it can be more stressful period with your family. You might be fighting more. You can be emotionally more reactive, like you're willing to, you fly off the wall faster, and you're more irritable generally. Plus, Mars will make a direct square aspect to the 7th house, Cancer, from there. So you can be more sensitive and argumentative with partners as well, or in your family. So be careful around that time, or just generally with other people, that you're just more reactive. You fly off the wall easily, and you can react and then regret it after that. But at the same time, it can be a very productive time to fix something around the home, to change, to do something with your family that is more physical, that is more active. Maybe go skiing, or maybe, have a constructing project at home, or do gardening at home together, or just do some DIY. Or if you're relocating to somewhere, Jupiter, Mars will give you this energy and this push to get things moving, to arrange something with home or property, to do a lot of things around there as well. And generally, you're much more active. Then the next period Mars will be activating is when it enters Cancer, which will be a 7th house. And that's from May, mid-May, and the whole of June. Mars is in your 7th house. So it means that it energizes the field of relationships for you. You might be fighting again, more feisty with others. You might be just more willing to negotiate with someone, whether it's in business, but not more willing, more not willing, but more less willing to negotiate with others, and more like cutthroat business person, and you go after agreements, like you carve your agreements, you kind of press the person you're trying to make an agreement or contract or negotiation, or to convince them about something. You press them by the wall, and you kind of impose your will on them. You're much more proactive when it comes to relationships, proactive in regards to purchasing contract agreements, proactive in regards to pursuing partners. And often you attract a lot more martial people that are more belligerent, that are more ready to fight, or that are more energetic and youthful and excitable and full of energy. Depends what aspect Mars is making from your 7th house, Capricorns. If it's easy aspect, it will be just those more excitable, youthful, sexual people that are more driven, that stimulate you towards more productive activities, and that you can make a lot of productive things together in a partnership, maybe with your partner, to have more sex with your partner, do more sports together, or do some project together, or business partner. You can be like cutthroat businessman that pursues your agreements, uh, with another person too very forcefully. But if Mars makes a lot of hard aspects, be careful because you can aggravate others. Others can aggravate you more. You can create some hostilities there, clients, you can butt heads with them and things like that. But even then, you can turn that energy into more productive by this anger that fuels you, that others are challenging you. You can use it to fix something because Mars wants to fix problems, to, instead of going to defend yourself and fighting with them more, pay attention. What do they say? They might say, oh, your services suck or whatever. And you kind of think, oh, how can I make it better? And for them, of course, you're not going to feel like reacting like that. But remember, mid-May till June at some time, this definitely will be someone will be provoking you, and try not to at least react as fast as you want. And the last time is from when Mars activates you is from October. From October, yes, October till mid-November, to around November the 20th, that Mars is in your 10th house. Again, very active period in regards to your career. Plus, all of those periods when Mars is in the 4th and the 7th and the 10th, you can get a lot of things done. Things speed up, become faster. Despite of Saturn in your sign, you'll see like this is the most hectic periods for you. And here, especially in regards to your career, becomes very hectic. You can be more physically active as well in those periods. You can feel like you can achieve a lot in regards to your career, in regards to ambitious goals. You become more ambitious. You start go-getting, go, you can butt heads with authority figures, father figures, institutions and stuff like that. But also you can do a lot to push forth your social status and public recognition, and to receive those, and to get a lot done in order to receive those. Woo! There we go, Capricorn. Thank you so much. And I'm preparing written ones month by month for each sign. This is a different service, but just if you prefer written month by month, my teacher is preparing it in particular with my help. And they're going to be very differently, but this is the whole year overview, and hopefully that gave you a lot of information to think on. Please communicate underneath, share your experiences. How are things going? Are you feeling that? So thank you so much.